Hello, good afternoon. Maybe we can start. We have a very interesting session today. Thank you for attending. We are in our second day, and we are let's say the brave. We are here in person. So thank you all of you for attending. The first speaker I'm going to introduce to Merja Laamanen. Sorry. She's digital transformation lead at the University of Jyväskylä. She has 20 years of experience in developing e-learning models, training, and new digital tools for higher education. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Hello, everybody, and I'm happy to see you, the brave ones here in the afternoon sessions. So my name is Merja Laamanen, and as Miguel told, I'm the digital transformation lead at the University of Jyväskylä. And there's also a name of my colleague, Liisa Kallio, who is here in the front row. And we will introduce you the lessons learned in a pan-European project that had very heavy impact due to COVID-19. And first, I have to apologize to you if anybody tried to reach this presentation already a few hours earlier, because I was first at the 12 o'clock slot, but all three other speakers had to cancel due to these traveling instructions on a few days notice, so I was shifted here. Sorry, but the agenda was not updated. But yes, I will shortly introduce you this For Them project. It's an alliance of 7 universities. Here you can see the universities across Europe. And the whole idea of the project is internationalization in different forms, meaning short-term mobility and also virtual mobility. And my role in this project, which has been now running for about 2 years, a bit more than 2 years, is the scientific manager of the Digital Academy. And now I will tell you how we managed to organize a successful online training for teachers in digital competencies during the COVID pandemic. And here you see the universities, so the project is spread around Europe: Germany, Finland, Poland, France, Italy, Latvia, and Spain. And these are the main actions of the project. Please visit the project webpage for more information. I will now shortly introduce you the idea of the Digital Academy that we have been actively developing. And the idea of the Digital Academy is to offer virtual high-quality studies for both students and staff of the For Them Alliance universities. So students can participate multidisciplinary online courses, hybrid teaching and MOOCs in various languages. And also Digital Academy is providing an online course on digital competencies for the teachers of the For Them universities. And we're actually organizing this course 3 times. I am now telling you the experiences from the first round, and the second round just finished like 1 or 2 weeks ago, and there will be the third round next spring. So the idea was to develop teachers' 21st century digital competencies, provide them knowledge and skills on this topic. And what comes to the pedagogical design, I'm telling you that there were some both opportunities and kind of challenges in offering a training like this for such a diverse amount of group of participants. They were from different universities, from different cultural backgrounds, from different disciplines, with various skills and knowledge on digital competencies, various language skills, and they even had very different roles. For example, we had this professor in law from Spain. Then we had an Italian researcher in chemistry, a German language teacher, and then a French IT support. So we had to be able to provide something new and useful for all these participants. So that was an interesting challenge, I must say. And as a funny detail, we even had participants from different time zones, because it appeared that one of the participants was located in Brazil, and we had live online sessions, and they started at 5 a.m. local time. And there he was, well on time every morning with a huge cup of coffee. What a brave man, I must say. And these were the learning goals of the training in a nutshell. Of course, these digital competencies that I will soon introduce you shortly. And then of course, how to use various digital resources in your pedagogical course design, and how to use this pedagogical design model called ABC in your course design. And also, because as I told you, we are organizing this course 3 times, of course varying it a bit every time. We also want to build a network of these participants for kind of peer support for the future. And our training is based on this European framework of digital competencies for educators, probably familiar to some of you. And it's a scientifically sound framework which describes what it is to be a digitally competent teacher. There are different topics. We concentrated on these 4 core topics: teaching and learning, digital resources, empowering learners, and assessment, just because we had a limited time for the course. They are all very interesting topics, of course. And what a surprise! Of course, this COVID-19 pandemic had a very heavy impact on the course. To begin with, we were supposed to have a face-to-face meeting for like intensive working for a couple of days in Finland in autumn 2020, and we all know what happened. Nobody could travel, so we had to change it to a fully online course the next spring. So we had to do kind of double work designing this training, and the time and the place and the mode was totally changed. And also the number of the participants was increased by 1/3 after the course call, because of course when there were no costs of traveling, then we were able to take more participants. But anyway, we already had published the schedule and the content, so we had to kind of redesign our course so that we could take 21 participants instead of just 14 participants. So we had to do the pedagogical design and also the technical design of the course, because now we had to do everything fully online. We decided to use Moodle and Zoom, and then we used some digital whiteboard tools for the synchronous online working. And because there were so many changes, we had some serious concerns before the training. All this uncertainty, because of course nobody knew what is going to happen. Is anyone going to be able to travel? Can we organize the course? And we had to do this double or even in some amounts some triple work for the design. And we had some challenges in finding participants for a fully online course with some intensive working days instead of meeting in Finland, or for the second round meeting in Italy, because it was a University of Palermo in Italy which organized the second course this autumn. And to be honest, when you're doing live sessions, synchronous sessions online, we were a bit concerned about participants' motivation and commitment to an online training, because we all know how easy it is to multitask during online sessions, also face-to-face. But anyway, there's an email popping up and then you lose your concentration. So we had to had to really build the course in the way that the participants will stay with us. But I'm glad to announce that we actually managed to organize a successful course. So these concerns did not happen. Here are some feedback from the participants of the first training. And if I give you some points of the training, to first of all, we had designed the course in the way that they would feel as familiar with each other as possible in these circumstances. We had some pre-work to be done in Moodle before the synchronous live meetings, so kind of get to know each other. And then we had some pre-tasks, and then this very intensive 4 days in a row, like 4 days in 1 week, intensive sessions. And then we had some individual working time, and they were also giving feedback, peer feedback to each other, getting feedback from the trainers. And then we had a wrap-up seminar like 3 weeks after the intensive week. So we had really planned everything very, very well, and it paid back, because as you see on the feedback, the participants said that it was a well-organized course, and they felt that they really got something. Imagine, we really had professors from many different disciplines and like tens of years of experience in teaching. And they even found some new tools, because this was not a tool-specific training, because you have to remember we had 7 different universities across Europe with 7 different infrastructures, 7 different educational cultures. Like in some countries, teachers have more freedom in how they organize their teaching. Like in Finland, the higher education is very student-centered, and in some other countries they have less freedom. So there were all kinds of challenges that we had to pay attention to. Something that was in common for all the universities was that they are all using Moodle, but as we know, the Moodles are not identical. So they actually even found some new activities in Moodle when they were using our university's Moodle during this course. And as the feedback says, they were happy to reflect their courses, and when they got feedback and questions from their colleagues, other participants, they really had to rethink their course design. And we want to share the lessons learned with you. If you are organizing a fully online training in a international context, be very clear of the content and focus of the training. Communicate it very clearly. This is also about the expectations, because if the participants suddenly have very different expectations from the reality, then they may not be very happy. But be very specific about this. We put a lot of effort and energy to pre-course communication. We made sure that everybody was able to access the Moodle, and they knew the deadlines, and actually they didn't have to come back to us and ask, because we had made it very clear where are the instructions and what to do and when. So always the next step was there. And be flexible and be well prepared. Have plan A, B, and we strongly recommend to having plan C as well, because of course we were doing this synchronous online teaching during the pandemic, when the internet was quite crowded. So if there are any technical problems with the platforms or online connections, it affects to the experience. But always have a plan, another option what to do. And this I want to stress here: activate the participants to avoid multitasking. As I already mentioned, it's way too easy to lose your concentration. So we used a lot of small group discussions. We used digital whiteboards. We made them to discuss with each other, communicate, but because it's much more difficult to do multitask or read and write your emails if you're in the middle of the small group conversation. And also, this sounds probably self-evident, but it's not. Have enough breaks during the sessions. We all know how exhausting it is to be in online sessions, like hours per hour, many hours a day. We had 2 hours slot, 1 hour with a short break after the first hour, and then we had a proper lunch break for 1 hour, and then again 2 hour slot with a break even in the middle of there. And we got feedback, but thank you, they really really needed this. And it also helps you to avoid the multitasking, because they know that they will soon have the 1 hour break or the rest of the day to do all the other tasks. And then what they also were giving feedback and thanking us was this friendly and relaxed atmosphere, which is a basis for the mutual trust if you want to make them to share experiences. And this is important because especially we usually learn even more when we kind of don't make it, or if we have had challenges and we have solved the problems or something didn't go as it was planned. But you need to feel confident to be able to share this, especially in this group that nobody knew each other before the training. So that's something that we are very happy and proud that we were able to create this atmosphere, and they felt safe to share their ideas and experiences. And thank you for your attention. Now we have a couple of minutes for questions, if you have any.
Thank you, Merja. Any question from the floor? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. I recognized a lot of things you mentioned because we're facing it too as well from KU Leuven. We also know the ABC design, so yeah, it's a very useful method to work with. I was wondering about activating the participants, students online. I was curious, what are the activating things that works very well? Have you find any tips or tricks you can share with us in saying you can do this or you better can't do this? Too many is not good, but what is a good balance? What kind of variety do you need? Do you have experiences on that or feedback on that from your participants?
Thank you for a very good question. I will share the secret. Keep it simple, because the more, for example, with the small group discussions, the more you need to instruct them, the more kind of confused they will be. And especially because we were using these breakout rooms in Zoom, like for the small group conversations, they can't remember very long instructions, or they kind of lose the concentration if they're not sure what to do. So keep it simple, provide clear instructions. What worked very well was to give them a topic, share them to breakout rooms, give them a digital whiteboard. We usually had the questions there, like you can even provide 2 questions or give a question like, write pros and cons of this phenomenon here, and then they put these notes there, and then it makes it easier to go through the results. We used one digital shared board for all the groups, and then they could also see other groups' notes. But that's what they really loved, and actually there are very simple tools for this, but like many professors said that yes, I will take this to my teaching as well, because there were many that were not that familiar in online teaching in general, because but due to the pandemic they had to go there. So I would say keep it simple, small group discussions, and give them some digital whiteboard, easy to use, to share their ideas, so they don't have to kind of remember, or someone writing down with a pen and paper. So that's what worked very well on this course.
And they can take something home as a result from it as well. So yeah,
yes,
thank you
exactly.
very much. Yeah.
And you get the documentation easily, because you don't have to do the double work. Someone says it aloud and then you write it down, but they do it themselves. I think that's a good idea to use.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you. We have time for another one, maybe there.
My question would be like, after the course, could you activate the people, the participants, to be able to evaluate new technology on their own? Like when they found the platform, teachers always found tools online interesting and so on. Would they be able to evaluate them themselves? Do you have any feedback on that?
I think they have more ability to do that after the course. And as I said, we had participants from very different skill levels, like or their knowledge on digital competencies. Some of them were already on, like we had this IT support person, and then we had some with less advanced skills. But I'm sure that after this course, they will be more competent to do this, and they know in what to pay attention to when they evaluate the tools. Thanks for the question.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Merja, for your talk.
Thank you.
And our next speaker is Afif Rustom. He's responsible of international business development at VitalSource, located in United Arab Emirates. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So I'm here representing VitalSource, and here's Felix with me. So hopefully after the session, you can visit us at the B32 if you need more information. So one of the most important things that we've been coming to OEB a couple of years, one of the biggest parts is that we've been always looking at digital. We are always telling people how digital is important in the classes and how it's important for students. But what we've seen is that going to digital, having transformation, is not just a click of a button. You need to do so many steps to get there. And one of the most important parts that VitalSource focuses on is that how do you work on the core resources for every single course that the student is in? Because you can cover so much with that when it comes to adaptive and personalized learning. So a bit about VitalSource. Many people, they know us for 20 years that we are an e-reader. We have like 1,400 publishers, 2.4 million titles. But actually, we're not only that. We've invested in the past years to make sure that we provide the right tools to both universities and publishers to be able to create content that makes students engaged and be able for the instructors to be able to look at the insights, to go back to the class and be able to teach the students what they really need to know. So when we look at VitalSource, today there are 14 million users that they use every single day our platform in more than 200 countries. And we have localized it in 37 languages. So it's available and it works across so many universities globally. So when we look at VitalSource, there are a couple of parts. So you look here. Oh. Did I do something? Oh. Okay. So when we look at, we have the acrobatic, which actually I'm talking about today, the adaptive and personalized. We have the bookshelf, which is the e-reader. And then there are other platforms that we can talk to you more at our stand. But one of my favorites, and that's actually what we really want to talk about today, acrobatic. Acrobatic, we acquired it a couple of years back. And why did we acquire it? It's based on learning science. There's a machine learning that's behind that works. And that's what it is needed for all the content that the universities they use. So when we look at acrobatic, actually the thing is that students, what they require is learning by doing. So I'm just going to give you an example before I jump here. Today, when we look at all the students and all of us when we graduated, we have so many books. Every semester we have 4 or 5 books, and each one of them is like 600 pages. For students to go through that content, and more the instructors to teach that content, it's so difficult to finish in a single semester. But you can achieve more if you provide the right tools to the students. So what we try to go and work is transform the way you look at course. And especially now with the pandemic, many people are going digital, but going to digital is changing the way you teach, looking at the syllabus, changing it and making it all to maintaining learning items week by week so students can cover more. So let the students cover more on their own and then flip the classroom. So I'm going to go teach chapter 1. Before I teach chapter 1, I give the students chapter 1 on the platform. They go, they do the questions, they cover all the learning items. Then I look at the learning insights, and then it says that those group of students, didn't cover that learning outcome, or those group of students didn't cover that learning outcome. Then I'm able to differentiate, and I'm able to personalize it in the class and provide that personalization, that one-to-one to the student. So what you look at here is exactly a book that has one learning objective. We've taken it, and we made every single learning outcome with a formative assessment and a personalized feedback. So you will always see a personalized feedback for the student. That motivates the students to go. And it's nothing to make it like really hard. It's not a science that is really hard to do that. It's just repeating that concept continuously. Make students memorize, make students understand, and make students go through different stages to make them know what they know and what they don't know after a chapter, or 2 chapters, or 3 chapters when they prepare for quiz 1 or test 1. If we go further, you can see that the student can track themselves. Today, many of us, when we look at a full book of 600 pages, we don't even know what we covered. But it's nice to know that what were the challenges that we had in that chapter? What are the most challenging objectives that we got? And in that way, we're able to know what we have progressed and then go and visit the outcomes that we were challenged with. More importantly is the instructors. Today, it's data. When we look at data, the instructors, there is a full digital ecosystem that the university uses. One of the most important parts that's going to be in the next 5 to 10 years is that how do you utilize that data to be able to come back and make it constructive for the instructors to go back and teach. So let's go back to chapter 1. Usually, an instructor will go teach chapter 1 in a class and they focus on objectives, but they don't know what the student they know or they don't know until they come to the quiz. With that, we've given chapter 1 to the students. The platform by itself, it makes the student cover it. They have the formative assessment and they have some challenges that they go through. That insight gives the instructor before they go teach the class, let me go look at the report, and then I go focus on the objectives that they are most challenging. And each class is different, each type of students are different. And I can differentiate, I can work with the students, I can personalize it, I can look at different types. And the most important part in all of this is you tag the content to learning items, to skill set, to different parts that you're able to drive that data and be able to take it back. So a couple of things that we've done in the back end. Today you're going to say, okay, that's all exciting, but for us to do this, it will take us 6 months, 9 months, or even a year to do all of that. Today what we've done, and Acrobatic was taken from Carnegie Mellon. Carnegie Mellon is known to be one of the leading universities globally in learning science. They developed a platform with a research base for 13 years, and they developed a machine learning where you can throw any single book into the machine learning. It creates the formative assessments, and it creates a base for a courseware. In that, you're able to have that completely. It identifies the learning objective. It takes the content, if it is a content that's an image or a video, whatever it is, and it gives the formative assessment on every single page by itself. That by itself creates a base for courseware, and then you can add up on that. If you want to add up, you can always add up. You can go back to work on different assessments. You can have summative assessments. You can add whatever you want, add extra. But that base by itself gives enough knowledge to the instructor to know what the students they know or they don't know. And it gives the motivation and engagement for the students to go through the platform because you're changing the way they're doing it. And this is not to replace instructors because we've heard in the past couple of years that, oh, this is going to be replacing instructors. No, it's a tool instructors they use to help them more in the classes. And there are 400 courses or 500 courses in a single university. So this might not apply to every single course, but it applies to the core courses and it applies to the majority where you require a tool that helps you with teaching, and especially now with the digital, because digital is not only like I'm going to jump on a Teams or I'm going to jump on a Zoom or I'm going to go to Moodle to give the students more work at home. It is just giving this insight and getting the learning objectives and redesigning your syllabus to fit to digital. Because switching from a print book to a digital book is not just switching from print book to a PDF. It changes the way you're teaching, it changes the way the syllabus is designed, and it focuses on totally different angles where you look at the mastery of learning outcomes. So the other part that we have is the smart author, where you can build content completely from scratch. So today when authors, and this is specific to publishers and universities that they publish their own content, Today, you don't need to go publish on a Word or publish it like you traditionally publish it. There is smart authoring tools. You can go, design your content, tag it to learning outcomes, and be able to have a content that is tallied to your students, and it is to the needs of the education system, the learning outcomes, and the assessments that you want to try to do afterwards. This is my final slide, is that today we work to make everything when it comes to digital scalable. So it's localized into all languages. We work on accessibility, and it's all secure. And at the same time, it is all compliant. So it's FERPA compliant and GDPR compliant. So we don't have the data for us. It's for the instructor that they already have with the quizzes and the exams. That's it for today. And I just wanted to make a short presentation so we can really discuss more about any challenges and try to get more questions from you and more engagement on what you have, or if you had any tools that you've had in your mind that you wanted to see, or what we can discuss.
For your presentation. Thank you very much. Let's open the questions, one and then two.
Hello, thank you very much for your presentation. I want to go back to the point that you were, you were taking us through the steps basically of what the teacher needs to do and the flipped classroom part. So I think from what I understand, from what I hear, is that teachers also need to be very flexible, right? In terms of preparing their class when they actually see their students, because of course they get all this feedback from your tool, but then they have to sort of be flexible into what is it that they are gonna go with when they go back to the classroom. So I was wondering if you have any feedback from your users until now in terms of how do they deal with that and what is their experience?
Yeah, that's actually a good question, because that's something we see across so many universities. Today, instructors, they spend so much time in preparing their classes. Without digital, without anything. They go prepare, even though that they teach the class for like 10 years, they have their notes and all of that. They go take time every single day to prepare to their classes, and they have a lot of work. What we try to do is that we come to the instructors, we change the way they spend time. Because you spend less time if there's a platform that covers almost 80% of what you're going to teach tomorrow. And that 20%, yes, the instructor needs to go before the class. They go, and we have the right tools, we have the right feed, like case studies that we've done with so many universities. How do you utilize that tool and that data to be going back and differentiating the class, to be able to use it? It changes the way the instructors, they think. I can tell you in almost the past 10 years, I've sat with instructors. Some instructors, they loved it. Some instructors were completely resistant, and some instructors were like, okay, but I'm confused. And it's not about age. Actually, we had people that are older. They were more receptive to this, and they really wanted it, and they wanted to have it. The younger people, they were stuck with some methodologies that they were using. So what I really say here is that it is more education. It's more the university's responsibility, because the university has to take that responsibility that, okay, I need to give more courses to my instructors, more ways of teaching and all of that, and we help with that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Afif. I'm from the Dutch Vrije Universiteit. I'm working for the library over there. And I'm doing some educational support. And one of the things with this kind of tools is, of course, the question about copyrighted materials entered into the tool. I wonder how you manage this with this tool, and if you have managed it, is it possible to connect your tool to a supportive system which a library is like WMS or OCLC or something like that?
Yeah, actually, VitalSource Acrobatic is integrated to the learning management system of the university. So we have LTI integrations, but at the same time, we have API integrations. So when it comes to VitalSource in total, we provide that through the library systems. We integrate with them on our platforms through IP address. We have different ways, Open Athens, SAML, and especially inside Netherlands, we work with SURF. So we have authentication with SURF. It's SAML 2.0, and then we're able to integrate with the library. You're welcome.
Any other questions? Yes, please.
Thank you very much. Very interesting tool, maybe inspired by the lecture this morning of Marleen Sticker. Is there a way to see more of a justification of what's happening in the machine learning that you're using, in the sense that we can build more trust in working with this tool? Is that something that you have looked into? Yeah.
Yeah, so actually it's a very interesting question, because when we sit with universities and we sit with different people, we explain what is the data behind it, because it's a 13 years of research that Carnegie Mellon University spent to create Acrobatic. So Acrobatic was the commercialization of the platform from Carnegie Mellon. So there is a lot of data points that has been used. There were a million students testing it over 10 years that they have. So we can sit definitely and talk about it, but it's really basics. So for example, the Smart Start, which is the most basic of the platform. Today with the Smart Start, it takes that content, identifies the learning objective, and the learning objective today, when you look at the big publishers, like 1,400 publishers, every book has a learning objective or an objective in each chapter that they have to cover. So it picks up that objective, it picks up the content that is tallied to that objective, and then creates the formative assessments automatically. That's the machine learning when it comes to automatically create formative assessments on a book. But when you come to Acrobatic, it is really data. It's just the data has improved it every single time. When we see students engaging with the platform, data drives the platform. So it drives the personalization, it drives the report and all of that. So you're not doing anything that is really completely out of space. It's just purely taking the data, providing it as instructive as possible to the instructor to go back and teach. And then in those pages, creating those formative assessment, which is the base to knowing if the student, they know the topic or they don't know. And then adding on top of that, the layers, the summative assessment, the videos, the presentations, all the tools that can help students cover those challenging topics.
Okay, thanks for the answer. I know that Carnegie Mellon has had quite good ties with Chinese universities, and that they developed actually a way of teaching English by using that kind of data. But still there is a kind of cultural bias which might work or not work in other cultures. Can you say something of the origin of this data?
The data, so when we're looking at VitalSource, the 14 million users that we have, it's global. So we covered in every country. Why? Because today what we have as our e-reader that's for 20 years, it's in every single country. Every publisher like Pearson, McGraw-Hill, Cengage, Wiley, even like when we come to Netherlands, the question that we cover the Dutch publishers and all of that. So we have existing users that have been using VitalSource for a long period of time. So the data is international from every culture. And then over the past years, some of the universities has been switching to Acrobatic. And that is giving more data into international. So it's not cultural, like it's not only US based, where we have only the data from the US and we are just a US based company. No, it is the data is coming from every single country. And the interesting part, when you look at how Acrobatic is being used or how our platforms are being used, in each country, they have a different way. Like one of the things like I really like about Netherlands, in Netherlands is totally different than other countries where you don't have a mandatory resource. You have 5 recommended books that you need to use because they have more, like you can choose the content that you require. The way they build the content on that platform is different than another country. So it's a tool, it's how you use it, and then how do you tackle your cultural differences in education in those countries.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Maybe as we have one more. Oh, there's a question there. Oh.
I can do it without microphone. I have loud voice. What kind of data are you collecting? This is interesting. Then the last part of your answer, because we talked about this
GDPR.
I know it in German, but in English. When someone collects data, if I go to Google, for example, I get a service, for example, and I give my data, I know it, I'm aware of that. But you have a service where we have to pay for it, and then you collect data. What gets the user for the data that they're giving to you?
Yeah. So today, actually take it as a simple part. Today you use an LMS, if you're using Moodle, Blackboard, and all of that. You have the normal data that is the student information and all of that, and it's all approved by the university because the university is going to use it. But the interesting part is the data is the engagement of the student with the content. So how much time they're spending on it, what learning objectives they're covering, the right answers, the wrong answers, and all of that. All that data goes to the instructor. So it doesn't like, it's not like we provide it to publishers because of the GDPR. So the platform is GDPR compliant, and all the data that we collect is nothing new to the instructor. It's just that it's digitally available for the instructor to be able to use it. And that's how we use the data. But we don't use it like, for example, Google, where it provides it to ads or all of that, because it's the university signing up this platform, and whatever you use in that platform, you have access to as the university. So it's the data is owned by the university and the instructor that created the course. The minute you delete that course, data is deleted.
But you don't use as a company also the data to improve your algorithm or
No. So it's something like, no. No. So that was what I was trying to answer. The question is that the 13 years of research, that was pilots where you required to improve the platform. You continue to improve the platform because there's feedback. People, they send feedback, the universities, they send feedback, publishers, they send feedback, even students themselves, they say, can we improve that? And that's how we improve it. But it's not like we use the data to take all the data and try to improve algorithms, because then we don't have approval from the universities. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Afif. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And now is the turn of Ulrike Wild, and she's Program Director of Flexibilization and Director of Educational Innovation of Wageningen University. Sorry.
University, in case you don't know it. Yes, it's another Dutch thing here.
It's too much for me.
Okay.
Okay, and lead of Dutch Acceleration Plan for Educational Innovation. So thank you very much.
Because that's the mouthful I am talking about, the Acceleration Plan, Educational Innovation with IT, or Versnellingsplan in Dutch. And I am part of it as well, but I actually am the stand-in for my valued program leader, Johanna de Groot, who couldn't be there. And very interesting what the former speakers have told. The Dutch Versnellingsplan is aiming at a different level. It's aiming at the systemic level. We have wonderful initiatives trying to get our teachers around to use new technologies and to become better teachers. We have fantastic tools, for instance. But what about the system behind? Because that's not all, and we all know it's very difficult to change the system. Well, I will tell you what we try, and we tried already since before the COVID crisis in 2019, and we will hopefully continue, and the things we do will probably bring us, what was it, a fast forward to the future. You never know. So I said already, it's a 4-year program. It started in January. And what's special about it, it's a collaboration. It's a collaboration from the Netherlands Association of Universities of the Applied Sciences and the universities, the research universities. And SURF, which is a sort of, I always forget, confederation or something where we all work together with all things around digital. And the ministry is in it. That's a very good sign too, and they have funding for this. We had a budget of 50 million euro, and there is a huge in-kind financing part of the institution. And we actually used up all the budget and are using more, which is a good sign because we have very nice projects. The ambitions, why did we start? You probably have noticed that the Netherlands are not a big country. We are a small country, and we work on a very small place together with 60 higher education institutions. But that could be a chance to actually use it for collaboration, because we have a good infrastructure in visiting each other, we have highways and trains, and we have digital infrastructure. So why not using and strengthening the forces? But we have problems too, because the whole higher education system has more and more some challenges to actually improve the job market connection. We all know there are the jobs of the future we don't even know. Data comes in, everything. So we need to anticipate to a far more flexible system. So we need to make education more flexible. And of course, we can use the technology part where you, for instance, just talked about to learn smarter and more effective. And this lunchtime, we had already a discussion, I don't know if you were there, how to improve actually the way how we spend money to make it more efficient and effective. Yeah, it's from the 60 higher education institutions, nearly 2/3 are there, 39, and a lot of people are involved directly in the program, but of course, if you look around in the institutions, this is probably far more. How are we actually organizing that? In the middle of all is a steering committee and a program team. And we have a support team. And around this program team, who helps us to realize everything and organizes it and makes sure where actually as well the executive boards of the higher education institutions are in, the associations, the student unions, the Ministry of Education, and they all have the governance about that. There are all these wonderful bullets around, and they are the zones, and I will tell you in a minute what they actually are, because they are the areas where we actually make the programs and the projects. And we have, in the meantime, we started out with 8 zones, but now we have 10 or even 11, because we added some due to the COVID crisis. And when we started the program, we were thinking about what are the vital areas where you really need collaboration, and what are the vital areas where joining forces will really help the whole education system to move forward. And there are, for instance, zones like EdTech. Now, you would be a typical representative of EdTech, a big one, but you probably started small. There are wonderful startups. What can we do, for instance, in our institutions to try out to have safe places where you could experiment with startups, help them, if they are vital, to scale up? So that's, for instance, one of these zones. Or you mentioned students' data, or it's a very high discussion point. A whole zone who had the programs, or who thought about programs, what should we do about student data and learning data? What is needed to make them privacy resilient, ethic-wise, and all these kind of things? Or, for instance, a zone which deals with digital educational resources, and which are currently trying to build a national platform where we share and reuse or produce our materials, and even talk to editors, because they are part of the system if we like it or not. But how can we make something which really would help us all to move forward? Or, of course, the zone flexibilization, or the funny thing, accelerating altogether, would be a zone, a group, where actually board members are taking part in. And they accompany all these projects, and they look into it, and they discuss it, because they have sometimes, they need a free place to think forward as well, and not only to make decisions from a political way. New is, for instance, as well, practical skills education. This came during COVID crisis, because we could do a lot of teaching online and hybrid and whatsoever, but what about the lab work? There are excursions. My university is a life science university, and we have a lot of excursions going outside. So how can we use tools and other things? What could be there to help that, to do it in a remote or in a way? and as well the remote assessment, one of the biggest discussions in the last 2 years, to have them safely and fine, and what do we need to learn about that, what agreements do we have to make, and to collaborate on that. So in all these zones, there are these 40-something institutions, and they are not in every zone because they decided, actually, I'm going ahead, before on upfront you decided on which zone, on which topic you would actually like to invest in. And you sent some people in who form this network and group, and we collaborate in it. And I am a leader of such a zone, and I'm the leader of the zone flexibilization. And I will tell you what we just have reached in this zone. And that is a typical thing what we could only do by collaborating, because it's an innovation on a national level, and it's something which involves more than one institution. If you want to be flexible over institutions and open up your study guide, you can't do it alone. But happily, we work together with the TU Eindhoven, where my colleagues are here, and with Utrecht, where as well some colleagues are here. And we just launched a platform which is called Educacion, and basically it's something where the study guides can actually perform, or they will be linked to this site, and you can there you can show some courses or all courses. And the students then can browse through the courses from other institutions, from another university. And if they want to enroll, it became very simple by a sort of system like, it's called the Edu ID, which functions a little bit like a PayPal or something like that, where the data, which approval from the student would get exchanged, which are necessary for enrollment. This looks very simple, but it's so complicated until now because our student information systems are built around our institutions. They sit in after brick and mortar, and they don't exchange anything with anybody outside. So encompassing that and making able this data exchange is a revolution, even if it starts very small, I must say. If I fast forward in 25, I hope that all Dutch universities will be on it, that we have a national study guide, that we will have a lot of filters there where we can actually see courses from the other universities, where we probably have themes and topics where we collaborate on, and we have found some flexible study paths as well, so that the student is not anymore bound only to the portfolio of one university. Another breakthrough is that we just started with a pilot micro-credentials. And again, something which, is it already 0 here? Ah, okay, sorry, I got such a shock. Time is, whatever, it's not important anymore, time. We started with 32, again, higher universities, and we all collaborate on introducing micro-credentials. You probably all have heard about micro-credentials in the system. And we start simply in the lifelong learning area, but we collaborate now and find out what would be our national policy, what is needed to actually have it in the end in our national law. That micro-credential is not anymore something, oh yeah, you can do that or that, but that it's really part of our system, like the bachelor and the master would be. Therefore, we need to agree on standards for descriptions and on quality assurance and all these kind of things. And again, and we need to find a national register and all these things. So that's another breakthrough, actually, pilot, where we hope in 25 it will have found its way in every aspect of our famous system. But we go as well for institutional levels. You had the things about teachers and how difficult it is to make them change. We have a zone which is actually trying for professionalization for teachers, and they have a toolkit for an effective lecturer and professional development. And again, this takes in a lot of aspects, the characteristics of the institution, the professionalization characteristics, is it didactics, is it use of technology, as well the lecturer, what is his motivation, what does he know before? So this is another thing which is delivered for the whole systems and every institution, where they can take on and see what their own professionalization actually, where it's good and where it has probably some faults, or where they can be inspired by that. We did more in the response of the COVID. Of course, we already have been a little bit on the digital track, so happily it was not a completely disaster, but there was of course far more to learn. And they opened up a digital communities platform, and in the direct translation it would be the oracle of online education, but it's more, it's a digital community. And there are 900 active followers, as you can see, and 1,500 followers on LinkedIn. And everybody can post and can share and can talk to each other. And there are always certain webinars, every 2 per month, on topics which are highly interesting for this moment. And a focus is, of course, the exchange of practical knowledge and experience regarding this COVID response we had to bring. And what I said before, there were 2 new working groups as well in COVID response, and there's the remote assessment and the practical skills. Why is that successful and why isn't it? I think the successful thing is that it's partly a bottom-up approach, that really it's not SURF, it's not the institution alone, it's a group of the institutions where we collaborate, and that we are in the lead. It's coming directly out from the experiences in the institutions, in the needs of the teachers or the policy makers or all this kind of people. And we all strive for not only for our local impact, but we strive for something which is beneficial for the whole system. And we choose our own goals, how we do work together and how we organize ourselves. And we have some money, so we can actually invest in certain things, and we can produce outcomes and products, and they are available. I will give you in a moment the website, and then you can see that all, because there is much more what we actually reached. Of course, there are things we have learned. It's very important that you have the right people on the team, and that the board is involved properly, that it's not just somebody, a single player in a university who's there, that he has really a backup. That we need time, that the challenge is a huge, how do you adopt actually innovations in the institutions? Yeah, that's always a challenge. And that you keep the enthusiasm and the energy, because some people are very, let's say, engaged and others are less. But all over, if you want more, here are lots of websites, and I would actually say www.versnellingsplan.nl, and there's an English part, you find everything. And to end up, I would like to invite you, because next year we will have a big conference coming out from this thing, and it will be in Holland, in Rotterdam, and the call for proposals is open, and it will especially focus on all the outcomes we have reached so far. And now I have 2 minutes 20 for questions. 2 minutes.
Thank you, Ulrike, for your talk. Yes, we have a little time. We have a little time for questions. Maybe I have one very quickly, which is SORF and the Netherlands has been leading, actually the state of the art in educational technology, let's say. And there's a lot of work done in interoperability. So we know how to make interoperable maybe learner profiles. Why doesn't, we are still, 20 years after the first ages of e-learning, we are still thinking on how difficult it is to interoperate between different institutions. Is that kind of a political commitment or it's not a technical issue, isn't it?
How many hours do we have? I
1
think
minute.
This, in the former session, I think it's because we are competitors as well, and that makes the universities naturally very closed. You know, we have our academic competition, and we have probably a competition as well for students and all these kind of things. So we like to see ourselves as the one and only and the best. And that makes us not very natural people who seek out for having actually as well to take in other people, to negotiate an outcome, to give up some autonomy. Because the first word what comes to me, if you ask me about academics, it's autonomy. And the autonomy is actually adverse to really flexibility, because you only reach flexibility, for instance, or other things, if you agree on standards, if you agree on a certain way around. And in the end, there will be more autonomy again, but we need to struggle through this.
Okay. Thank you very much for the presentation. Thank you again. And I have to thank you again, Merja, Afif, and Ulrike for being the speakers in this session. And thank you to all of you for attending. Thank you very much.